Once again, I'm James Leichter. I'm the owner of Aptora, and I'm really excited to have all of you here today because it's all about the Technician Saturday. I appreciate you being here on a Saturday. We are going to be talking about Aptora mobile software, and we will be taking your questions. Now, while I'm presenting, I plan to present for maybe 35 minutes, and during that time, you can ask questions in writing. You can type your questions into the chat window, and we will answer those live. Erica will be answering those, and then we'll open it up to Q&A, and I'll just turn on your microphones and let you make comments, questions, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. I got all day. And again, I know it's Saturday. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you being on here with me. So I'm going to get right into it. All right. You know what? Let's start with the schedule board because this is probably where it would start with a lot of you. I'm going to take you through a basic service call, and we won't talk too much about the schedule board, but here's where it would typically start. Your dispatcher, CSR, might enter a service call for a service tech. Now, today I am Service Tech Ashley. I'm logged in as Ashley, and this is where she's going right there. So that's where we're sending her. It starts on the schedule board. Now, I wanted to show a tablet, but I had a lot of trouble getting my tablet to show up on the screen reliably. I decided to just resize my browser so that it is about the same size as my tablet. And that is just about perfect right there. Now, when you first open the mobile app, it can be overwhelming. I mean, look at all these buttons. This is probably the most powerful, most robust app there is. It's more than really an app. It's a full business management program. And it can be a bit overwhelming if you land on this page and see all these things here. But it's important to remember that these things are controlled through lots of preferences and display settings. You can come into your display settings, for example, and you can decide what buttons you want to see. Like you may not want sales opportunity follow-up. What is that anyway? I don't even know what that is. Sales opportunity, get rid of that. Appointments, I don't ever get appointments. Get rid of that. You might get rid of reminders. I don't need any reminders. Phone activity log, don't need that. Phone messages, they never do that. Notifications, you can get rid of those. My timesheets, don't want to see them. That way, you only see what you want to see. Hit save, and we'll go back home. And it looks a whole lot easier to deal with right there. Now, also, you may want to visit your security, or maybe that's a manager's job. But let's go into user permissions real quick because I want to change something. Oh, let me go back and show you what I'm doing. I noticed work orders. I can see all my work orders. I don't want to do that. I want this person to worry about one work order at a time. So I'm going to go to security, user permissions, find Ashley, and just check out all the permissions. This gives you an idea of just how robust, how powerful the program is. All of these are features and forms and lists. And you can turn lots of things on or off, lots of settings, lots of customizations. Now, there is a downside to all this. It can make the software seem more difficult to use. You know, Apple doesn't give you a lot of choice. A lot of our competitors don't give you a lot of choice. With choice comes responsibility to learn these things. But I think your company will appreciate the flexibility, and then once you set it up, it's over. You get it set up, you're done. Now, what I want to do is I want to display one work order at a time, and I want to show the next work order after today, and that's already yes. So I got that set. Hit save, we'll go back home. Now I see two work orders. I see today's work order, and I see there's today's, and then there is a work order for Monday. That's my first work order of the day. So we're going to deal with this work order right here. First thing I do is I open the work order and check it out. Think like a doctor about to walk into the exam room. The doctor is reading your chart. It used to be a piece of paper, just like you and me. You might be used to paper. Maybe you've been around that long, started out with paper. Same with the doctor. Now, thankfully, we're using tablets. And my background is service, by the way. If you'd like to know more about me, you can visit my personal website, which is mrhvac.com. That's mrhvac.com. You can learn more about my background. But I'm a service tech, master mechanic, installer, grew up in the field, been doing this just since I pretty much got out of high school. And then I turned software nerd and started building flat rate pricing systems and software like this. And that's what we do at Aptora. So here we are looking at our work order and we are reading notes. Okay, AC upstairs not cooling. I could hit the address here and open up a map. I've got a hyperlink to get into their service agreement, to get into their customer information. If you're using a browser, you can right click, do new tab, go into the customer info. You can check out the contacts, details, user defined fields, etc. So here we're checking out what we're supposed to be doing. No cooling. Let's go to notes. Existing customer never complains. That's nice to see. Equipment. Here's the equipment we're working on. Now, if there was no equipment here, the office may not have associated any equipment with the service call. We can add our own equipment. We can select equipment if we want to. Where here's the AC unit that apparently we'll be working on, but it's attached to an air handler or a furnace, and there it is. Now, this is all in red because it is on the so-called watch list. And let's just look at that and see what that is. The furnace is on a watch list. And that means that it has a history that we need to be interested in. And we can go into the notes and let's see, there's been a history of rust on the upper side of the heat exchanger. They use a lot of spray paint and hairspray inside their house, and that'll do it, won't it? I don't know if you guys have ever ran a service call on a unit in a beauty shop. Man, the heat exchangers last like 2 years. So that's good to know. That's the kind of history that's available to you in the program. So if you don't see some of these things, then you want to talk to the office because they can add the equipment and hopefully they're using that feature. The office can also put items on your work order to get you started. For example, the office put a diagnostic fee on my work order for me, which was nice. That way I don't have to put it on there. It's going to go on there no matter what, unless maybe it was a callback, and this is not a callback. It would say so if it were. So when I come in here, I read my notes, I get ready, I prepare myself, and then I'm in or out. I hit my stopwatch. That's what I call it. But what you did is you clocked in to a timesheet in Total Office Manager. So you're actually, if you're a Total Office Manager user, I'll just show it to you. You're actually creating a timesheet in real time for that employee. So there it is. You can see hourly travel, and I'm traveling out there as of 10:11 a.m. No double entry. Now, when you get there and you're ready to walk in, you might hit working. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. And now we're working. And if we go back to the timesheet, just refresh it, we can see that now we are working. So we're putting in timesheets automatically. All right, so let's see. We have to pretend here. We have to pretend like we're making a diagnosis. So we go out to this person's house, no AC. Let's pretend like the condensing unit motor has failed. So we have a condensing unit motor failure, and we need to replace that fan motor. We are going to want to prepare the work order so that we can present our client with a price. And how do we do that? We go to the items tab. We have a diagnostic fee already, as I mentioned, and we're going to add a service. And if you don't see service on your mobile, that's a preference to have that button. I can talk more about that later if you want me to, but we're going to add a service. And in this case, it's a fan motor. And your system may be set up differently. I'm sure it's set up differently than mine. So I have something in here called a fan motor. And right down there, fan motor, residential. So replace any residential fan motor. That's a condensing unit fan motor in stock, non-OEM, and I pick it. All right. Now, what I'm also going to do in my case is I'm going to add a subtotal, and you'll see why in a second. And these are required. Okay, so I have a subtotal called required repair. Absolutely required repairs. These repairs are required in order to get the system up and running. Again, this will make sense in a second. And that's that. Now, if I look around, I can probably find other repairs that I think need to be done. So why don't I just hit add? It said 3 items added. Why? Let's go find out. There is a preference to automatically add a discount. So we can add a discount automatically to this repair. And you see that it did that. And you also can remove things if you don't want them there. So here we have the required repair, a diagnostic fee, replace the fan motor, and it's all subtotaled out. And if we want to, we can add another service, such as, well, let's say we're replacing the condensate drain assembly. And that is, and again, yours will be different, but mine is easy to find. Condensate drain replacement 01, replace condensate drain. All right, so we're going to get rid of that lousy plastic, brittle, junky thing and do it properly using PVC with a nice trap and an air vent. So we have that on there. And if we want to, we can stop there. But I want to add a subtotal to this. I want to subtotal it out to show them that this is my highly recommended work. And this will be obvious in a second. All right, now we're looking good. Let's go back and have another look at our items tab. We have our diagnostic fee, condensing unit fan replacement. That's a required repair. Then we have a condensing drain replacement. We give them a discount because it's extra. And we have a subtotal called highly recommended. And let's preview this, see what it looks like. All right, looking pretty good here. Now, the way I present it is I say, hey, I got your situation figured out. Your condensing unit fan motor, as we call it, has failed outside. It's on the outside unit. I can show it to you if you'd like. And you take them out there if that's what they want. You'll be able to tell in their eyes if they want to see it. The fan motor failed. I need to replace the fan motor. I can save your blade. I have a special tool for that. So the fan blade normally gets broken or damaged when we take them off. I have a special tool. I can save it. I need to replace the motor, the capacitor, what we call a motor run capacitor. I need to update some of the electrical wiring. And your total investment is $579. So there's their total investment right there. Now, you may not show them your screen. Maybe the boss wants you to. I'm not sure. I don't show my screen most of the time just because most people don't want to see it. They don't really care. Now, your experience could be different. I've run thousands of service calls. I would say 5% of the time I show them the screen or the paperwork. But they want to know that you didn't make it up. So the fact that you have paper in front of you back in the paper days, or you had a flat rate book in front of you, or you had a tablet in front of you, they want to know you didn't make it up. So you're blaming the book, you're blaming the tablet. But you can show them the screen if you want to, you don't have to. Your total investment is $579. Now, I would also recommend that we replace the condensate drain line. That's that ugly hose that you might have seen coming out of your furnace. It's actually attached to the evaporator coil, which is part of your air conditioning system, and they're prone to being clogged. And I would highly recommend that we replace that. So your total investment today would be $684.59. May I go ahead with the work? Now, at your company, you might want to get a pre-authorization signature. You'd click that little button and you'd get the signature. And you'll have them sign or initial it, and then you enter their name. And now you've got a pre-auth signature. And you go about your work. Now, at some point, you're going to want to describe what you've done, obviously. Just like the paper days, the boss probably told you, I want you to fill out that whole invoice, get your pen out and write down a bunch of stuff. I know I told my people that, and I'm a former contractor, owner of a HVAC company, too, in fact. And that's what I tell my technicians, and they don't want to hear that because nobody likes filling that stuff out. Now, with your mobile, you can use voice recognition if you'd like, but you can also take advantage of a great feature, and that is the description feature. Add a description. So we'll click that, and we'll type in condensing unit fan, or maybe fan. Probably put in too much. Okay, there's fan, motor fan. Okay, there it is. Here we go. Condensing unit motor replacement right there. There's my description. And then the drain line, maybe condensate. Yep, that's the one. Condensate, replace condensate drain system. Okay, there we go. Now we'll add those. All right, so they're added. Now let's go back to our notes and we can check it out. The boss has got to like that. If anything's spelled wrong, it's the office fault, right? Because we didn't put that in there, so they get what they want. We get what we want. We don't have to type in all that stuff. Let's take a look at it. Let's go preview again, and you can see the notes are up here. Now, you might want to do that in advance, but again, it's my experience that we just want to talk to them. We don't want to show them the screen. They have a hard time reading it. They don't have their reading glasses. They're not sure what it says anyway. Also, you do have a feature that you can turn on where you can have the customer, your client, I prefer to call them, decline any of these things. So they can decline your highly recommended. Let's take a closer look at that just so we know what that is. That's a subtotal that I called highly rec. And there's the description of it. So I want you to think about like an auto mechanic. The auto mechanic says, okay, to get your car running, we need to replace the starter. But in addition to that, I would highly recommend that you allow us to replace the battery and do the rear brakes. That way your daughter will be safe. She can drive the car probably all summer and be in good shape. So you have what's absolutely required to get the job done. You know what? I shouldn't say get the job done. What's absolutely required to get the unit running. But if you don't want to see me for the rest of the summer, there's a good chance you won't if you allow me to do these other repairs. So you recommend other repairs as needed. All right. So at that point, you're ready to get to work. Now, a couple things that aren't really related to mobile, but I don't want you to think I forgot about them. Once you make your diagnosis, you should always be in the habit of saying, once I do the blah, 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 I will then complete the rest of my diagnostic procedure. That way, if it's low on refrigerant, you haven't suggested you are finished. That way you could approach them and say, I'm running your system. It appears to be low on refrigerant. A lot of people call it Freon. I'm going to need to add some refrigerant. Your total investment is going to be $111.32, something like that. And I recommend you don't say dollars. You wouldn't say $111.32. You would say 111.32. But always tell them once you do the work, you will then complete the rest of your diagnostic procedure and take your time. You don't want to come back. So now you have a good looking work order. You've got your items on here, your discounts. If they don't own a service agreement, you might try to sell them a service agreement. You might have noticed on my preview, we have our missed service agreement savings. This is a feature that you can turn on in case you don't see it. So you can try to sell them a service agreement. You might say, do you own one of our safety and efficiency agreements? Oh, you don't. Okay. Okay, I wanted to see if you qualified for the $102.69 discount. Notice I said at that time, I said the dollars. Okay. I wanted to see if you qualified for the $102.69 discount. Well, your total investment then is going to be $684.59. So say dollars when you want to emphasize the dollars, and don't use that word when you want to de-emphasize the money. Back to the work order. So we're ready to do our work and collect our money. Now, if this is commercial work, you might hit stop and be done. Commercial work might require the office to send the invoice later, but we're on a residential service call, so we might want to create an invoice. Now, one thing that I forgot to show you is under the equipment tab, I wanted to make it clear that you can go into the equipment and look at the equipment. You can see when it was installed, manufactured, who put it in, is it under our warranty, any kind of notes, if they've taken pictures of it, there it is, user-defined fields. But what's really important to know is you can look at the history. It says sales history, but that might as well say repair history. You can look at the history of the unit. So click on that, and you'll see every part that was ever installed. Every single part that was ever installed is right here. You'll see the price they paid, the warranty status. Now you can drill down on any of these things and even open the invoice. So you could double click and now you're in the invoice. So you're looking at the invoice. So if somebody challenges you and says, I thought we replaced that inducer motor, I thought we replaced that fan motor, you could go in and show them the history. Now, even if the house has changed hands, meaning the original people moved out and someone moved in, it wouldn't matter. You'd have the history for that serial number all in one screen. So this shows you the history for everyone that's ever owned that house. It could be an ice machine at a restaurant. You would have a record of all the restaurants that ever owned that ice machine all in one screen. So you have really good history, and I forgot to point that out. I wanted to make sure we all understood that. Back to the work order. It's time to create an invoice. I'll go to links and create invoice. Mark item, mark it as completed. Do I want to mark the work order as completed? Do I want to bring over the items? Yes or no? I'll go ahead and mark the work order as completed, and I do want to bring the items. And here I am in an invoice. Now, the good news for you technicians, there's nothing to do here, really, because you did it all in the work order. You have a balance due right there that you need to collect on. And to be printed says yes. You might switch that to no. That is if somebody wants a printed copy mailed to them. So you might want to switch that to no. My preference has it to be printed by default. Now we want to create a credit card charge payment, or we want to take a payment rather. In the real world, we'd have the credit card functionality working. I don't, since I'm in a demo database, I can't really do a credit card here, but I can take a payment, and that might be a check or cash. In fact, you know what? Let's do cash. So let's say they hand us, for some reason, 100 in cash. Oh, check number. I don't need a check number here. $100. All right, so we took $100. Maybe that's all they're paying us today. Maybe we leave. But they said, "Hey, I want to give you 100 in cash." Okay. And then what? So I would ask them, by the way, here's my terminology. All right, I have your invoice here. What method of payment would you like to use today? Well, I'll give you $100 in cash, and then I would like to write you a check for the balance, or I'd like to give you a credit card for the balance. And we can do that. We can do credit card, whatever. Venmo, they might pay you Venmo. So there's Venmo. We'll say they're going to give us a check. The amount auto-populates with the balance. There's their check number, and we're done. All right, so the invoice is finished. It has all those notes on it and everything else. We can come in here and send them an email. Now, that would be an HTML email. Most people don't use that. They use a PDF. So what that'll do is that'll create a PDF version of our invoice. Now the invoice is paid. We can attach extra files to the email, such as photos we took of the old drain, photos we took of the new drain, that type of thing. In fact, let's just click that. It'll just take you to a normal select your file screen, and then you'll send the email. Now the email into the system, it populates right here. If it happens to be blank, you could put something in there and tell the program to save it. You can add an email address if you'd like to. We've had a feature request asking us to give a list of available email addresses, and that's been notated. So that's in our system. We're going to get to that. But you can add additional emails, change it, do whatever you want, and I'll click send. And that's that. They'll get the email. Now, we had a feature request, by the way, to add the ability to send a link so that people could pay the invoice by clicking a link and going to a special web page. And we have added that, and it's being tested now. We have beta testers, and it's being tested now. So soon you will see a link in here, and when you click it, it'll send an email along with the invoice, if that's what you want. And they'll be able to click that link and pay online. All right, so that's assuming they haven't paid, but this guy paid. So the balance due is 0. And you can see there's his payment. And that's that. Now we're ready to go back home. And we see our work orders right there. We also see, oh, and by the way, there's 2. Well, let's click that. Now it's showing me my next call. We didn't see it earlier because I turned the preference on, only show the person 1 call at a time. By the way, we owners love to do that to you. We don't want you worrying about running 2 calls and that's all you have today, and now you're worried. Or I've got 7 calls. Oh my gosh, you're going to have to rush through them. We just want, I'm speaking for myself now. I just want you to worry about 1 call at a time. Just give them your very best because we don't want to go back. You know, we're not parts changers, we're service technicians. We don't want to be associated with a callback. So we want to take our time. All right, so we come back home and we're ready to do our next work order, but we have an open timesheet that we need to deal with. And we can't go to our next work order until we deal with that. So I'm going to click that. It takes me back to the work order, and I have an opportunity to hit stop. And now I've basically clocked out. Now you owners and managers can properly cost, or job cost, if you will, this job, because you know exactly how much time it took them to do the job. This gives you much better bookkeeping, much better accounting reports. So we've clocked out. We're ready for our next call. Let me show you a couple things here. We had a recent feature request, and let me just show this to you because I bet the company is out there and I want them to see how much I appreciated it. I got this sent to us, and there's no names on here, so nobody has to worry. I don't care if you guys and gals suggest things to us like this. You can write stuff on a dry erase board, take a picture and email it to me for all I care. You can go to our support website, support.aptora.com, and put in a feature request. I don't care how you do it, but we want to hear from you. We want this summer to be all about the technicians and mobile software. And if this is what it takes to get us an idea or to get a complaint to us, go right ahead. Because based on that, we do things to the software that you want done. We don't want to work on it. I mean, we don't want to add things to it for our pleasure. Calendar view. If you want to check out your schedule, this is where you can go. Now, management can control what you can see or if you can see this at all. One of the feature requests that was on that piece of paper that I showed you was the ability to set a default, like the week view or month view or agenda. I like the agenda. I like timeline too, but I like agenda the most. And you can now set that as a default. And that is under your settings. Let's go back home. I wanted to order a part. So let's say that we did not have a part on our truck that we need for a service call. Let's go to display settings and let's add the, make sure I have it. Oh, special order parts. Okay, it's still there. All right, so here's what I want to do. I want to go to quick add and hit purchase order. Now, the vendor that you end up picking depends on your company policy. So I might pick a vendor, but you might pick a different vendor. You might pick your company as a vendor. Let me just show you this real quick, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to type in needed for next call. Like I know I need something for my next call. Details, I can put in notes, things like that. Pick a department, pick a customer. The office could have filled some of this out for us. I'm going to select a vendor, and I'm going to pick Hodesco. Or I'll pick Granger. That'd be fine. Doesn't really matter. Gray bar for all that matter. Okay, so gray bar. All right. So there's more to it when you do a PO, but this will give you the basics of it. All right. Now that I've saved the purchase order, I can still edit it and do things to it. In fact, why don't I add an item? Of course, I need to add an item, don't I? So we want to add an item to our purchase order. And let's say that we're replacing maybe an inducer motor. So we can type in the part number or even just part of a word such as inducer there. We got several. And if we don't have it in here, we have a way of dealing with that too. But when you do a lookup, it's important to remember some of your options. When you're searching, you might be searching starts with or ends with or an exact match or like or contains. So that means that if anything contains INDUC, it'll return it. If you're not getting the results you want, you might change these. This is the most broad search, and it may give you more than you want. If you know the part number, you can try putting that in. Like I happen to know my part number, the one I want. I bought a bunch of these, but you may not be so lucky. You could also use a barcode scanner if you happen to have the barcode or a box of one. I'll click add and the item's in there. All right, so I've created my own purchase order. Now, again, the office might be doing your purchase orders. They may not want you to create purchase orders, but now you've seen that. If you needed a part for that last service call, or you know you need a part for the service call coming up, you can create your own purchase orders. Sometimes the vendor will be your company's name, and your company will figure out where to buy it and where to get it. All right, now we go back home. Notice the special order parts arrival. Let me show that to you real quick. Most of you technicians won't be doing this, but I want the office to see it. I'm just going to do it really quick. I'll go to receive items. I will go find gray bar, and I don't have to do it this way. I could have looked at my POs. You have open purchase orders. You trying to receive against them? Yep, that's what I'm trying to do. There's the PO that the technician created in the field. And here's the item. And the cost was zero. She didn't know the cost. I could put it in now, or I could put it in later. Packing slip number. I can put that in if I have one. Reference number, memo, etc. You get the idea. I'll hit save and close. All right, so now we've received the item for that technician. It's in. And I could have put notes in there for the technician so that they knew the item had arrived. In fact, let's go back to my item receipts list and search for my vendor. I think I left out something important that I wanted you to know about. All right. We could have selected a work order for the technician, and we could have put notes in telling the technician when we want them to pick up the part. So we have a regular meeting. I want you to pick up the part during that regular meeting. And if we don't have a PO in here, I can always add one. Now, the special order parts will show up in this list, and the technician will know the part came in. So these are parts that the technician is waiting on. When they are received by the office, the technician will get an alert indicating that the part is in, and they will know what is expected from them. Do they go pick up the part? Will it be delivered to them? All the information is in here, and they can drill down for more details on the part. So there are a lot of other things that we can do in the program. One thing I want to close with is the form builder. By the way, there's your form builder menu. We've added this menu. This was deeper in the system, and we put form builder right here. That came from that handwritten suggestion I showed you earlier. So there you guys go. That'll be in the next update. Here are our form builders, our templates from our form builder. This allows you to build your own forms, and then you can use those forms in the field. So let me give you an example of a form that you might have laying around. I'm going to go grab one real quick here. I'm looking on my other screen to grab it. All right. Where are you? Wanted to show you a PDF that you might have in your company laying around that you do work on. Let's see. Oh, I know where it is. Here it is. Okay, so here's a PDF, and this is for a precision tune-up on an HVAC system, heating and cooling, and it's really geared towards the heat pump. Now, I built this form personally, and it's cool, and it was meant to be cool because it's very technical, and I'm technical. I like nerding out on service work. And when I fill this out and hand it to a client, they know they got their money's worth, believe me. So let's say you had such a thing and you wanted to put that into mobile. Well, you could. And we have one called System Checkup Cooling here. And looks like we got one filled out already. I'll just open it. And let me show this to you. Let me click Edit so you can see it. This is that form that you just saw. You can pick a date, type in some invoice number, system number. These fields, depend on you. And these fields will get filled out depending on where you came from. And you can have different filters, places to put filter sizes, things like that. Cap is rated at 10 microfarads. You get the idea. So you fill this out. You got all these sections you can fill out. Yes to this, yes to that. Now remember, you build these forms using our software. You build these forms. Now I based this form on a PDF that I already had. I already had that PDF that you saw. It already existed. So this is just a plain old, well, I closed it, didn't I? It's just a plain old PDF, but I wanted to get it into mobile. I wanted each of these fields in mobile, operating voltage at breaker. I wanted a place to put that, 33 volts. I want a place to put that in mobile. And we have that in here. So this entire form is just built into the system. Now, once you've filled it out, you can sign it, get a signature, save it for later. I'll hit save. And then whenever you're ready, you could go ahead and generate a report. And check it out. There it is. That same thing. It needs to be filled out, of course, because I didn't bother filling it out. And it does take time to fill this thing out, grant you that, but it takes a lot of time to do this kind of a precision tune-up. And this might not be for everybody. This is your premium, absolute awesome tune-up. You might have a lesser tune-up. So each one of those forms, let's just go back there. Each one of those forms can be a PDF. You have an injury, you could have an injury report. And you fill out your OSHA injury report in the field. Fill it out in the field. You can email it, print it. So all of your PDFs, your company's PDFs, can be turned into input screens in mobile. And you can launch these screens from here, or more likely from the work order, the invoice, the customer, the service agreement, whatever. Chances are you'll launch them from there. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you is the investment guide. I just wanted to make you aware of it if you didn't know it. You have a different way of presenting flat rate tasks. You can come in here and build a task like this, and then you can explain what you're doing and total it up, and it works like a shopping cart, and you can have options. So you can give them other options, and you can have different shopping carts to pick from. You can add easily add to an invoice, an estimate, create a new one. But this would allow you to give multiple options. Like, for example, you could option out equipment here. Now, you might not sell in your company, so you may not use this. You may not use this for equipment, but you could. If that's what you do, if you're allowed to do that, then you could use this. And it has financing built in and a lot of other features I won't get into. If you don't sell, though, what you might want to do is put in a lead. This says employee leads. If you click this, you have the ability to put in a lead, create a sales opportunity. You can pick your customer or come from the customer to do this. You could have came from the customer and it would have filled it out for you. You could pick a salesperson or let the office do it. You can fill it out or don't fill it out, just depends on your company policy. Put in information about, definitely put your name in there, and financing, that kind of thing. Again, what you fill out just depends on who you are in your company and what your company wants to do. You can pick the product they're interested in. Maybe they want a complete comfort system, and it's a high priority for them. So that's a sales lead. But what's unique about it is it's tied to you. It's tied to you, and now you can track it. You can keep an eye on it. When you log into mobile, you'll be able to look at your leads, and you'll be able to see the status of those leads, who's been running it, the proposal, when did they visit them, etc. And you owners and managers, you could tie spiffs, rewards, bonuses, recognition to those, have contests, who can generate the most leads. And by the way, service technicians, I don't think you're salespeople. I don't consider technicians to be salespeople, but hold on, I want to be understood. Just because you suggest equipment and they buy it doesn't mean you're a salesperson. If you went to the doctor and they suggested an MRI and a blood test, are they a salesperson? No, they're a doctor. I don't know why we call ourselves salespeople when we so-called sell things, but that's just part of our job. Now, you may or may not sell in your company. You might have dedicated salespeople, but maybe you sell UV treatment, maybe a whole house humidification system. That's not selling anything. You were the doctor. You recommended a blood test, an x-ray. So never consider yourself a salesperson, but always consider yourself having a duty to give people what they need, not necessarily what they ask for. You have to suggest these things to people because they don't know, but it doesn't mean you're selling anything. You're just doing your job as a technician. Remember, you're not a parts changer. You're a technician. That's a big difference. Okay, well, I could go on and on and on. I'm going to stop here and open this up to any other Q&A. Erica, would you chime in real quick?
Hi, I assigned you one question to answer or go through.
Oh, good. Let's see. I'm not seeing it.
It was...
I just see answered questions.
Do you see assigned to you?
Oh, let's see. Questions assigned. Okay, go ahead and tell me what it is.
Is it possible to go over how to mark a piece of equipment in red and show the details?
How to mark up a piece of equipment and show the details?
Mark one.
You add it to the watch list to make it red, James.
Oh, how to do that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So we would go to the customer equipment list and just open up any piece of equipment. And the watch list is right there. Just check that box. And then I would recommend going into notes and explaining why it was marked under the watch list. Now, once you've done that, there is a user filter right here, and you would be able to type in true or yes. It doesn't matter, true or yes. And you'll see the units that are on a watch list. And by the way, that was added because I was an expert witness in a lawsuit. And sadly, and I hate going against an HVAC company, by the way. I hate it. But I was asked by the court to evaluate some service procedures. There was a rooftop unit that had rust, a history of rust, and it was forgotten about. It rusted through, and someone nearly died. Someone got brain damage. As a result of that, I added the watch list so that you would always know when a piece of equipment was put on the watch list. All right. Any other questions? And I'm happy to unmute anyone that has any questions. You can raise your electronic hand like Bill has done. And I'm going to, Bill, if you're still available, I'm going to open up your mic. It doesn't look like your mic is functional either. For some reason, it just says error using your microphone. So if you can get your audio working or type in your question, I'd like to take care of that. And I'm going to click allow to talk again. Didn't work. I think it's on your end. Ronald, let's see here. Allow to talk. Give the system a second. It's thinking about it. You had your hand up. Oh, it's a long time ago, though. All right. If you
Ron had a question about adding an item above a subtotal line.
Oh, yeah. So the way you do that is using the position feature. Let's go into a work order, go to items, and notice there's all these items in here, right? Let's go add one, and I'll just grab anything. Well, when you check that box, and you can check others too, you have an opportunity to position it wherever you want it. Now, this one has a lot of items on it. Normally, you're not going to have 53, but who knows? So that way, you'd find your subtotal and click on it, and it's going to put these three items right before position 26, which could be our subtotal. Now, I'll show you something else. Technicians, you probably aren't going to care about this, but let's go to our invoice item list. Let's go to type and type in the word sub. So here are subtotal items. Here's that highly recommended repairs, just so you can see it. We would create a subtotal. So the item type is subtotal. Call it whatever you want. Give it a number, whatever you want. I typically don't use spaces or dashes. And then you type in your description right there. So those are highly recommended. And then you might remember I had the absolutely required. So we have recommended, we have required. Now your company may not do it that way. You guys may not like that method that I've described, and that's okay. I'm not here to dictate policy. I'm just here to show you how things work. But I personally train technicians to do what the auto industry has done so successfully. Here's what it's going to take to get your car running. But if you don't want to have any troubles this summer, I highly recommend you do A, B, and C, that type of thing. You could also have subtotals for repair options. You notice I have repair options. Option A, get it running. Option B, keep it running. Option C, reduce breakdowns. Option D, protect and enhance. Now, again, some of you might think it's corny, but you're doctors. Think of yourself again as doctors. The patient's bleeding. I have to stop the bleeding. And you do. But then you've got other things to recommend. We need to do a blood test. I'd like to get you your tetanus shot. I'd like to x-ray the arm. Again, is that doctor a salesman? Wow, that salesman really stuck it to me. No, we never think like that. It's a doctor. So you're not selling people garbage they don't need, services that won't improve their life. You're a professional, but it's really important to recommend things to people. And if they turn you down, that's okay, because someday they'll understand what you recommended was a good idea. I mean, when they drive that car down the road and it breaks down, they think about the mechanic that said it would break down, don't they? Same way with a furnace, same way with air conditioning, plumbing or electrical. All right. I want to re-emphasize how much we care about the service technicians and care about them using this app. I know other people use the app. It does a lot more than just take care of the service tech, but I want to emphasize how much we care about making the app easier to use. We've got a list of things that have come in lately to make it more friendly for thumbs, to make it more vertical and not as much horizontal as far as the navigation's concerned. Also more shortcuts, things like that. We're on it. We're all over it. But we want to hear from you. You can go to our support website and do a feature request. In fact, I'll just show it to you. I'm not a robot. No, I'm not. So here's our tech support website, and get into the regular part of it. All right, there it is. Feature request right there. If you click feature request, that's where you can put feature requests in. And I read every one of them, by the way. Other people monitor it, but I personally read every single one of those because I want to make sure I'm aware of what people are asking for. So please be sure to put those in. Bryant, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, I might turn a few of the questions on the side, but one thing we talked about was adding, I think James mentioned the horizontal, not having to scroll to the left and right. So we're in the process of designing all of our lists to be more vertical, less having to move side to side. I think that will go over as far as, using thumbs on a phone. No one wants to swipe to the right to read things.
Yeah, so we're going to have boxes basically. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, it'll have basically one box with 5 rows of information. And if you guys don't know it, you can add or subtract these columns. So if you say to yourself, it'd sure be nice if I could get rid of 2 of these columns to make it fit better, you can get rid of those columns in your settings.
Yeah, there's grid settings that basically let you decide what columns you want to see on about every list in the application. That'll prevent you from having to swipe right if you don't want to see certain things. But yeah.
And remember, turn off things you don't need. We get complaints from users who tell us mobile is hard to use. Mobile's overwhelming. I can understand that, especially when you arrive on this page and there's a ton of stuff on it. So only put on here what you need. When you get started, just have a few buttons. Someday you might want timesheet entries on here. It shows you how much you've made today. It shows you, how many hours you have in the current pay period. It shows you your timesheet entries. These things also can be for other employees. If you want to grant that permission, they could see other employee timesheets. You could clock in and clock out here. Also, managers can clock one or more people in and out on this form, depending on permissions. So there's a lot of settings, a lot of permissions. It is a bit overwhelming. But once you set them, you're usually done. And it's better, in my opinion anyway, to have the choice. Erica, did you have anything that you wanted me to cover on screen?
I've got one question where someone wants to know how to handle miscellaneous tasks as far as the descriptions on work being done in mobile.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so what you can do is in Total Office Manager, you could create miscellaneous tasks. You could create tasks that are meant to be used for miscellaneous purposes. And there's many ways to go about that, really. But you could, I'll show you one. You could do it like this. You could have a task that's designed to be edited in the field with real information. Let me see if I can find one. Tell you what, let's go to sales description series. And here we go. All right, let's open this guy up right here. Now, you may not get this complicated. You might do something more simple, but look what I've created. I have something called replacement of unlisted class 3000 series 120 component. What that is 120 minutes of labor, and it is a $30 part. So I have a $30 miscellaneous part, and I have 2 hours of labor. This is what I would use if I had something like pillow block bearings, which I haven't run into in a long time. Wouldn't have them on my truck. Wouldn't have them in my flat rate book. So that would cover the cost of the bearings, 2 hours to put them in, to get them, put them in, plus the diagnostic fee. But the trick is what you do is you put in the real description. So that's the trick, is you pick the task and then you put in the correct description. Now, you don't have to create a group item to do that. You could create a service item if you preferred. Also, you could have the technician build the task on the fly. So in other words, they would pick the labor, they would pick the parts, and they would present that in the field as a flat rate price. And there's a setting to do that. When you create a work order, let's just go into one real quick so I can show it to you. When you create a work order, you could have all of the items that you need. Maybe you don't have the flat rate task. So you put the items in here, some of which could be miscellaneous items, and you enter the correct amount. But you could build your own list of services, parts, labor, etc., and then just make sure that under settings, you are presenting it as a flat rate presentation, and you probably don't want the items. Flat rate presentation. Now, even though you have all those parts, when you go to present it, it would be just a single, I didn't set it. It would be a single price. So you have the option of not showing these items or showing them. Ronald, you've had your hand up 7 minutes. Let me unmute your mic. It's just spinning. It's thinking about it. Usually it does this when the other end doesn't have audio connected or the microphone's not found, but it's just spinning at the moment. You might have to unmute yourself, Ron. If you're muted, it could be that you need to unmute yourself. But I've granted your microphone permission to talk, so hopefully you get that sorted out. Erica, did I answer that question or did I miss it?
I believe you answered it.
Okay. Yep, the key is the settings.
Ron doesn't have a mic.
Oh, okay. All right. Other questions? Now, when it comes to when it comes to mobile training, we do have YouTube videos if you want to check them out. You can also come to our monthly webinars, and there's all kinds of other resources available at Aptora. The easiest way to learn it, though, is to set up a demo training database. And then when you log in, you'll be able to switch back and forth between those. So let's log out, and I'll show you what you'd look for. You can have a training database, and you can log into the training database and play around with it. Now remember, if you have kids, you probably have seen how your kids learn. They go in and experiment. They play around with everything. And that's the easiest way to learn mobile. But it does a lot. I mean, this program, if you go to, say, master lists, and you just have a look at all the lists, like the load calc and GPS tracking and inventory and reminders and notifications and task descriptions. I mean, there's a lot in here, but you can grow into it. You could practically run your whole business just using the mobile app. I mean, it's almost at that point. Bryant, did you have any questions that need to be answered or anything that you'd like to add?
No, there was just one Sam put in about did you cover how to add the missed savings portion to the invoice?
Oh, yeah. So that happens automatically. That is a feature you have to turn on in case you're not seeing it. If they don't own a service agreement, it will say missed savings automatically. If they do own a service agreement, it will say that they saved the money because they had a service agreement. It happens automatically. They just have to have a service agreement on file. And if you're new to the program, what I mean by that is, here's a customer right here. They have to own a service agreement right there. And how do they own a service agreement? You would have sold them a service agreement item in the software, and it needs to be active. You can see expired, expired, active, active. Typically, they'd only have one active. But there's their service agreement. I'll double click on this one here, and I will override it. And I'm going to make this guy expired. Save and close. Refresh. Okay, so now you can see it's expired because I changed the date, the expiration date. Now they have one. So that feature works automatically if they own a service agreement.
Yeah, and just to make sure, you have to go into your settings of like your invoice, your work order, and you have to turn it so it'll say like include SA savings at the top. If you go to settings, James, and hit like work order settings.
Yeah, we have a lot of settings. So that controls.
Now, we do have some users that put in discounts and they call them service agreement discounts, but they're not the actual discount that's tied to a service agreement. So if you don't use a discount that's a service agreement discount item, it will not register that they actually got the savings.
Right.
Oh, yeah, good point. So again, if you're new, and I didn't mean to get too much into Total Office Manager because I know we have a lot of technicians, but let's talk about it real quick. When you create a service agreement, it automatically creates a discount to go along with it. So these are my service agreements. Each one of those has a discount with the same name that goes with it. And when you create an invoice, I'll do it in the desktop, but when you go to create an invoice and you start to put in a service agreement, you'll notice that there's a service agreement and a discount. And that's what Erica was talking about. When you put that discount on the work order or the invoice, it tells you, hey, you saved this much money because you have a service agreement. If it's not on there, it doesn't know, and it says you missed those savings. Fortunately, we make it easy on the technician because we can auto drop the discount. We can automatically add the service agreement discount. The office can do that too. If they want, they can put the discount on the work order when they prepare it. And the mobile has the ability to automatically add a service agreement discount. All right. If that created more questions, that's fine with me. I'm here to answer all of them. It takes a little while to get used to all these settings. I do realize there's a lot of them. Maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we should have gone the Apple route. You know, Apple just is easy to use because you don't have any choice. And some people like that. And I sometimes wonder if we made a mistake giving all this choice, all these settings. It's just that my background is HVAC, and I've never met two companies that agreed on anything. I've never met two companies that would agree on an invoice style. I've never met two companies that would agree on a chart of accounts or a department list. I honestly never have. Every one of them sees it, they'd say, oh, that looks pretty good, and then they change it. So we have a lot of options, preferences, settings because of my feeling about that. Credit card and signatures. I've never seen a program that allowed you to change that. We put that in there for you, but when you go to sign a credit card or you go to sign a pre-authorization or you sign your approval, you can control exactly what's put in there. And the reason why we did that is, you know, we may want to say no sales tax included, but you may not want to say that. So there's just all kinds of preferences and settings in mobile, and Total Office Manager has 50 times more. All right. Any final questions or comments from my coworkers?
I just have, yeah, so basically, if I just want to say that if you guys throw out feature requests, the more the merrier, because, you know, we've built it to our vision kind of, but we've realized since then that, you know, there's things that we don't think about and that our users think about. So you guys are the ones that are in it all day long. So, yeah, I appreciate all the feedback and feature requests that come in.
Yeah, I would second that. Bryant, why don't you briefly just tell everyone what to expect in the next update or two, the next couple of updates?
Yeah, so we will have the payment link, send payment link email, that feature that will be added. We will also be in the next, that'll be the next update. The following update after that will probably have at least the work order list redesigned to up and down scrolling instead of right and left. We won't be able to change all the lists at once, so we'll probably just slowly roll it out, kind of get feedback on how people like it. But we will start with the work order area because that's where people spend most of their time.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to put it in one place and just see how people think, and then roll that out elsewhere. That's kind of how we do things at Aptora. While you're on here, and you guys can drop off if you want to, because I've covered what I was hoping to cover. I had somebody ask me about the investment guide. We used to call this the My Flat Rate book. It's really similar. We just added capability to it and gave it a new name because we want people to realize it's not just about flat rate pricing. It can be used for many things. But here was the question: where do these carts come from? You know, what are these? We have what we call shopping carts, and you could think of it as good, better, best if you wanted to. But we called them shopping carts because what we had in mind is that you would build out a shopping cart, maybe called good, better, best, and then you might want to flip back and forth between the different things like required repairs, recommended repairs, the Supreme system, the Optimum system, and you would add whichever one they want to buy, or maybe you add more than one to an estimate or an invoice. So that's what we had in mind with the carts. But what makes them really unique is they can each have different investment terms. They can have different down payments, different interest rates, different terms. In EGIA, we teach five different prices. And those are the Optimum, Prestige, Supreme, Ultimate, Value. The Ultimate's the most expensive, but it carries with it the very best financial terms, and that's what rich people are interested in. And when poor people see that they can put $1 down and the monthly investment is really low because we've carried out the payments, and what do you care if the payments are 72 months when the money is close to free? $1 down, 2% interest, 72 months, the whole thing's covered for 10 years anyway. So it makes it easy to sell the very best system to rich and poor. The key to making this work, though, is the financial terms get better the higher the price the system is. And don't forget to use pictures. I've noticed a lot of people are not using pictures for their tasks and their items and things like that. And, you know, it's a real shame. Like the drain assembly that I was talking about earlier, replacing the drain. Let's go find it. Drain, condensate. Oh, I got it backwards. I did condensate, drain. There it is. So let's look at that. You could show somebody a picture of the old style of drain right there. You know, say, look, that's the plastic tubing that you have, and we're going to replace it with nice PVC. It's going to look more like that. And then, you know, even though this is a task, it's not a equipment replacement, you can have it in here and you can do a really nice job of describing it and having pictures and things like that. And then when you're ready, you can click add and add it to your work order, add it to your invoice, whatever you're working on. All right. And have document links down here. All right. Erica, I'll give you the final word.
Did you show the good, better, best paper method?
Oh, yeah, I can show that. Let's go to Form Builder and look at all these templates. This is awesome.
It's at the bottom.
Oh, there you are. All right, so we will find a name. I put in that name before, obviously, so we'll search.
There's not one.
You got to add one.
Don't.
I'll create new then. I'll create it for my bogus customer. I like that name, bogus customer. All right, so here we'd have a good, better, best presentation using the Form Builder template. And we can start filling it out like some of you have probably done. Work address, contact info, indoor selection, like that. And then we can start filling all these things out. And again, you do things the way you want. You know, you may want it to look different. And then after I've saved it, I can generate the report. And if you didn't know it already, this is now in Total Office Manager. Everything is live, synchronized immediately in real time, because this is one database. One database is doing all this. So we can instantly see these things in Total Office Manager. And where do you go to see it? Well, you go to your customer list, maybe go to your bogus customer. You don't have to open it, just right click, go to document links, and anything that's been created is right here in the feed, is right here. And notice I double clicked it, from the desktop instantly. I think our form builder, the ability to build your own data input screens, is the best thing, one of the best things about our software, and probably the least understood, the least known, the least used, and I don't get it. But we're trying to change that by doing things like we're doing today. Another one that I like, as long as you're still hanging in there, I like this one. This one's not good looking, but I built this one for myself. Pre-sales replacement worksheet. I got one in here already. And let me just preview it. This allows you to go out to somebody's home and start filling out information about their old system. And notice it's ugly because the customer doesn't see it. So I didn't care about the looks. But I can decide if I need to put in a line set. I'll put in the old line set size. Is the basement finished? Do we have access to the ceiling? Is it a drop ceiling? What are the measurements? I mean, it's just up to your imagination on these forms. All right. Guess that's about it. Erica, anything else?
I think that's about it. Quentin wants to know if we can share those forms to import in the form builder.
We are making those available to buy because everybody hates free. Now, I'm smiling when I say everybody hates free. People think they love free, but they never respect free. No one ever appreciates free. They think they do, but when it's free, it seems like it has no value. But yes, we have a lot of these templates that we make available for sale. We have some that are free, though, by the way. Educational templates, example templates, things like that. Vehicle inspection report, among others, are free. Bryant, any last words from you?
Yeah, Quentin did have a question about the send payment link. If you go into a work or an invoice, I can kind of explain where it's going to be.
Yeah. Master list.
So basically, Quentin, when you go into your invoice, under the menu, you will hit the send PDF email up. You'll hit that menu button. And then when you get to this screen where it says send email, there'll be another button that says send payment email. So what it will do is it will attach the same thing as if you were sending the PDF email. It just sends a link with it as well. Your second question was, could you add another link if you use an outside payment source? That's actually a really good feature request. To either put a link on the PDF itself or to have a field in here. So I wrote that down as a something to explore because I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that should be fairly easy to have a field that turns itself into a hyperlink.
Right.
On the PDF. Yeah.
One other question that was asked was about doc links, and we have document links instead of images displayed. One thing we did talk about also was on our list view, having not only making it to where you have to scroll up and down, but making little tiny pictures of the item itself if the item has a picture. So that's still up in the air depending on the complexity of it, but that was an idea. So if that's something that you think would go over well, just let us know through support or the feature request system, and we can explore that further.
One thing we're going to be working on is a flat rate selection wizard, and it'll be very graphical. So when you arrive on the page, you'll be selecting like industry or book type, like is it HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and then you'll select what category, and it'll show you categories within the category or flat rate tasks, and there'll be a picture if you add one, and you click the picture and it takes you to the task. So we'll be working on that also. That'll be an alternative way for people to look things up in a totally graphical way. They may not even have to search for a single thing. They just push buttons.
Chrissy had a question about when the forms would be available for purchase.
I think you probably have an answer to that more than me. I think some of them are ready and we could send them. But others, I believe, are still in the beta, but probably it's time to,
So
probably
I
time
can
to
just
call it.
answer like, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I could probably just answer if you want us to create the forms. It's $8.99 for the first form, $7.50 for each additional form, and then that will get you training on how to use the forms, create your own if you wanted to, and the design, and then we'll take care of the whatever forms you want us to create for you. If there's ones that are in the webinar, it could be a little bit less.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted modifications to them.
So just so you guys know, a lot of companies are ran with spreadsheets and PDFs. So we have built a lot of PDF capability into our software. Like if you have a PDF like this one, Employee Performance Review, if you have a PDF like that, this can easily be added to mobile. You would use our Form Builder Designer. You import the PDF. If it's built already, you import the PDF, and it becomes part of the app. So this is a data input screen, which outputs to this PDF. And it would save to that employee's document links. And you could come from the employees. So you would be in mobile, and you'd go to the employee. Let's just do that. We'll go to master lists. If I have permission to go to an employee, not everybody would. Here I am in an employee. I'll go to Ashley. And then here I have forms. There's the injury report we saw earlier. There's that employee performance review that I was just showing you. And I could do her review on my tablet. And when I do her review and I hit save, then it probably goes without saying, it's probably obvious, but it instantly becomes available in Ashley's document links. Where are you, Ashley? There you are. I right click, document links. As soon as you do her review, it's in here. As soon as someone fills out a safety report, it's in here. And it's in mobile also, obviously. I really think this whole PDF thing is like one of our best kept secrets, but I don't want it to be a secret. I want everybody to use it. And as far as Excel spreadsheets, people love Excel spreadsheets. We have a dashboard system built in Excel, which we're late on releasing, but we keep finding things that we want to do to it, and we keep trying to make it faster and better, and we just have to stop and say, okay, it's out. But it allows you to really utilize spreadsheets to run your business. We have clients doing that now and are having great luck with it. Keep in mind, when you save this form builder information, all the pieces of info, not only are they saved as PDFs, but individual pieces of information are saved to the database. So every air filter, every clean, is it clean? Yes or no? Is it an expansion valve or is it a fixed metering device? All that is saved in the database as individual pieces of information. And then you could build spreadsheets Right now you can do that. You could build spreadsheets, build reports from that info. It's all in your database. It's your database. And we have many clients doing that. Erica, did you want to add anything to that? Or did you want me to show any other templates?
You can show the example of service and service agreement.
Okay, let's do that. Real world example. So I'll go to Form Builder and Bergeson. So here's a client. Here is their service agreement. They have one already, so I'll just open it. And there's all their data. Now, there's no edit button. Why isn't there an edit button? Well, remember, you can put a field in here that says once that field gets filled out, like a signature, it renders the form uneditable. So I can't edit it because that form, that field, got filled in. But we can generate that, and again, that's in Total Office Manager. And then you can do things with all that data. You can build spreadsheets and create really great reports on all that information. All right, I know I've said this before. Any other questions? Final questions? I'm in no hurry, so for me it doesn't have to be final, but I know everybody's got things to do. Bryant, how do we do?
I thought we did really good.
All right.
Yeah. I hope people learned some stuff, things maybe they didn't know about mobile. It's a pretty powerful product.
Bryant is our product manager on mobile, and so he's very interested in your feedback, and he doesn't care if it's written on a gum wrapper and mailed to us or emailed or send him screenshots, pictures. He doesn't care. He wants to know what's on your mind too. If we can shave a few seconds off a work order, shave a few seconds off an invoice, make a link so you can get to something quicker, we want to do it. Why haven't we done it already? Well, we're only as good as our feedback, the feedback we're getting. I promise you, we almost never do anything to our software for ourselves. We're always reacting to feedback and input we get, and we don't get much from technicians. Technicians may not realize they can get to us, but we want you to feel free to get to us. And if your techs are not on with us, tell them that. Let them tell you and you get it to us. But we definitely want your feedback. We're building the software for you guys, not us.
One thing that would mention that I don't think a lot of people know about too is there's a field. A lot of technicians want to, send out like a how do I do review. We have a field on the employee that will let you put a link to your own, review. Some people use like Review Kangaroo, others there's tons of them. But it just lets you simply paste a link in there, and it's one of those mapped fields you can use for a custom email that gets sent out when you complete a work order or something. I think that's something people don't utilize very often.
Yeah, good point. There is a saying that I have. I say this in the office all the time, and I joke that this would make a terrible marketing slogan. But I like to say, Aptora, our software is not as bad as you think it is. And then I laugh because that probably wouldn't look good if you didn't read any further. But I do believe that. I do believe there's people out there that say, well, I don't like the Aptora software. I don't like their software. It's hard to use, whatever. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have not done a good enough job telling you about what it does, where to find it. Why did we do that? Why is there a watch list? There's a watch list feature. Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you what it does. Ah, that makes sense. Total Office Manager, for example, has been criticized for being hard to use, but this is just bookkeeping. Every form in this software has a bookkeeper's counterpart on paper. So if you were 100% paper bookkeeping, we have every one of those forms that you used to fill out. Purchase orders, packing slips, receive item slips, enter bills, pay bills, write checks, W-2s, W-3s, invoices, sales, journals, credits, refunds, refund slips, phone messages. That was part of bookkeeping. Remember the day when you filled out a phone message? Contact logs. Remember the day where you had to fill out a contact log? And we have that. So you go into the contact log for the employee. That used to be a book. You know, you write in a journal, write notes about the employee in a book. And then there was a day where you had filing cabinets. Well, we have filing cabinets built into the software called document links. Those are your filing cabinets. These are your steel filing cabinets. We have literally reproduced a full-scale paper bookkeeping system. If paper bookkeeping seems complicated, this will too. But people that say, oh, I grew up with paper bookkeeping like Erica did, people like that would say, well, this isn't complicated. Now, in addition to having every form that a bookkeeper has, there's a lot of shortcuts and a lot of tools and utilities, but this is just plain old paper bookkeeping, but it's full-scale enterprise paper bookkeeping that was computerized. That's it. That's all it is, nothing more. Now, the bookkeeper ends, some of you know this, but where a bookkeeper stops and an accountant starts is journals. There's the invoice journal or your sales journal. There's all kinds of journals for a company. And those journals then become your financial reports. We don't even require you to fill out a journal. There's no such thing as a revenue journal, an expense journal, a fixed asset journal. And there's no way we would ever require you to go into the software and enter all of that information into a general ledger. We're not going to have you do that. We do it for you behind the scenes. And then we don't have you manually create an income statement. We do that behind the scenes. But on a paper system, you would be doing that by hand with an adding machine and a pencil and a lot of erasers. So the key to learning Total Office Manager really is to learn paper accounting, paper bookkeeping rather, and then learn the accountant's role, which we pretty much do for you. And mobile, the key to that, like I said, is playing around with it. Get yourself a database that you can play around with. A company file is the better term, a company file, and you just do what your kids do. You know, your kids have no fear. They just click everything. All right, I want to just say again, thank you for everybody. I went over, I usually do, I'm long-winded, I apologize. But I've enjoyed it a lot. And again, I know it's Saturday and we all have a lot to do, but here you are listening to me and Erica and Bryant, and we love it. We really appreciate it. We love our jobs, love our software, and we just want you to love it as much as we do. So please let us know what we're doing wrong. Occasionally, let us know what we're doing right because we need it. But let us know what we're doing wrong. Let us know what we need to do better, and we will give it absolute consideration. And more importantly, we'll tell you what we think. We'll tell you why we're doing it, why we're not doing it. We'll ask you questions about what you meant. Let's be partners. Your software vendor relationship is more important than any other vendor you have. Let's be partners and work together. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing you in our next webinar, the first Wednesday of every month. So I hope to see you next time. Thank you and have a great weekend.